at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. And my guest today is Tim Calise. He helps founders implement his product to profit framework. He started and sold several companies, and he helps service businesses unlock hidden profits. I'm going to be interested in finding out what that is, but we're going to start off someplace else. I always ask people when they come on the show, what's the biggest challenge they face? And his is continuing to maintain simplicity against a backdrop of complexity. So let's bring Tim on, and he can first explain what he means by that, and we'll see if we can help him find some solutions. Hey, Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. So let's talk about this. What do you mean by continuing to maintain simplicity against a backdrop of complexity?
I think by nature, we as people, as we go forward through any kind of new initiative or periods of growth, a lot of times we overcomplicate the things that sit in front of us. And whether that be in business, and just take something very simple as, how do I attract attention? It could be, well, there's 17 different social media platforms. There's all these other things that you can be doing. And in some cases, at the very core, we're just looking for someone who we can help in exchange for some, for resources of some kind, time, money, etc. When we try to overcomplicate things, sometimes we lose the value of what it is we're actually trying to achieve.
Yeah, I find that where I find this is most prevalent is when you're working with smart advisors. Because
Mm,
smart people have this bad habit. They take the simple and make it complicated. And what they should really do is take the complicated and make it simple. The other issue I find is when people tend to overcomplicate stuff with word salad. What that often
yeah.
means is they really don't know what they're talking about.
Yep.
And you should be very, very careful when that starts happening. If somebody can't explain what it is they want you to do in simple, everyday language, in my experience, they don't know what they're talking about.
Yep, spot on. And in my experience as well, is I was watching a piece from Simon Sinek, and he went into a large organization and sat in I think he said there were 20 people in the room, and throughout an hour long conversation, just nodded his head. Everybody else was nodding their heads, and at the end, he said, "I have no idea what we just talked about." And the person he was talking to said, neither do I. So I think the reality is so often, especially consultants and, especially in the management consulting industry and others, but it even comes down to us. I mean, I've owned and operated my own businesses for the better part of 20 years. And, you think about products and you think about offers. And a lot of times we think we have to do more and have more. And sometimes, as we say, complexity fails, simplicity scales. And sometimes we just have to get back to that core, the core genesis of why we're doing what we're doing and how we can package that.
Okay, Tim, I'm going to ask you a question I ask everybody, and we'll see if you can get it. You ready?
Okay. Okay.
What's the problem your business solves?
Entrepreneurial isolation primarily is the problem that my business solves.
Okay, so you are one of the few people that have actually answered that question with a problem. Most of the time when you ask that, and this is where people overcomplicate it, and I think this is really true, is you ask them what's the problem they solve, they start telling you the stuff they do, how
Hmm.
they solve the problem, but they never get around to telling you what the problem is. So if you want people to recognize what you do and who you serve, and more importantly, who you don't serve, you need to have a very clear problem solution. For us, we solve the problem of lack of cash. If you
Hmm.
don't have enough cash in your business, you need to talk to me because I have the solutions for it. But it's really that simple. I mean, that people can either buy into and say, oh, yeah, I have that problem. Maybe I should talk to Josh. Or they'll say,
Hmm.
I don't have a problem with that. Pass.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's that that we call them dog whistles, right? What is the messaging out there that only those who resonate identify with what you're saying? Everyone else will go about their life. And from an abundance mindset, there's still plenty of people that we can help.
I love that because I am so tired of people saying I need to serve everybody because there aren't enough
Hmm.
people for me to serve. You could come to the tiniest niche that you could possibly think of. And there's probably 100 to 1,000 times more people than you'll ever be able to serve in your business.
Yeah. Spot on. Spot on. I was actually on a call with somebody yesterday who is in the dog training space for show dogs. And you would think, okay, I help all dog owners or something like that. She helps one specific breed of dog owner to prepare their dog to be able to show and there's 2 events a year. She makes somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year in a coaching business in such a narrow niche. But if she said, I help all dog owners, no one would ever listen to her. So you're exactly right. The more specific you can be in some cases, whether that be a certain avatar or a certain thought pattern, that's the right way to approach, setting up the business in the beginning.
There's a guy named Aaron Fletcher who actually
Mm.
sort of rocked my world several months ago when I first started looking at his stuff. His definition of niche is so different. His definition of niche is what's the problem you solve for your customers? He calls that currency. Well, what's the
Hmm.
currency that you have for your customers? And
Yeah.
it's not an industry, it's not a fractal. Essentially, it's a problem you solve. So, for
Yep.
example, if lack of cash is a problem I solve, that's not industry specific,
Right.
but there's
Yep.
industry specific things you have to learn to help someone solve that.
Sure.
Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
It does. It does.
So, I'm curious. How do you help service business owners unlock hidden profits?
Yep. So, as I mentioned a moment ago, I help solve entrepreneurial isolation. That is how it presents. In very much the same way as you, that isolation is rooted in a lack of confidence and clarity. And many times that is an outcropping of feeling like there's so many potential solution sets in front of them that they don't know which one to choose. And one area in particular is how to acquire new customers. So I take a product approach first, which is using the existing components of your business, the things you're already doing. And my specialty is in service businesses around recurring revenue. That's the type of person that I typically work with.
Right.
Is instead of building all these new offers and new marketing and advertising and acquisition channels and content, take what you already do and document and demonstrate your value proposition and put that on the front end. And you very quickly get to this idea of like, okay, if I do a behind the scenes of what it's like to, and I'm putting, it might be for your business, Josh, uh, we help find cash. Okay, well, there might be a diagnostic that you go through when you start working with a new client. So you could document a short video of this is a diagnostic that I did with this type of company. If that resonates with you, then apply here, fill out a form, make a whatever your CTA is. So often we try to do the singing and dancing of TikTok these days in some cases or the equivalent instead of just demonstrating what makes us unique. And so that's what we do, and then we use product and product stacks to be able to help build a solid customer journey at a profit.
So, when you say product and product stacks, can you define that, please?
I can, absolutely. So many companies are unclear of the different types of buyers that exist inside of their customer base. So I spent 10 years in fitness. When we started our club, we had one membership type, and it was a flat fee. And what we came to realize was that we were overpriced for some folks and we were underpriced for others. And by having only one price point, we made it difficult for someone to come into our world and identify with the exact solution that we've designed specifically for them. That one size fits all. If you try to please everyone, you please no one. So, one of the things that we do is we actually do an analysis of your existing customers. We build the different types of customers you have, and then we use combinations of what you're already doing and potentially a couple of new ones to build specific solutions for each one of those types of people, which optimizes the amount of money we can charge for it.
Do you also name what those products are or
Oh,
product
absolutely.
stacks?
We name everything. So yes,
That's
yes,
so important. I mean, it's, one thing Dan Sullivan's come up with a bunch of good stuff over the years. But one of the
yes.
things that he came up with, which was in my opinion, really important is, especially in the service business, you have to productize everything you do.
Yeah,
Name it, give it a name. We
absolutely.
have the objective rule. We have more cash, more fun. We have the financial freedom accelerator. Those are all different programs. We have the sale ready company. We have, depending on who you are and what your need is, if it's around creating cash,
Hmm.
it's not just creating cash, it's creating cash for a specific purpose.
Yeah, spot on.
For
Absolutely.
example, the financial freedom accelerator is that if you're trying to become financially free from your business and have enough cash to do that, that's the program you want. But
Yeah,
if you want to create more cash so you can grow your business, that will be more cash, more fun, because it's a different set of things that we do for you.
right.
And, I just don't understand people in any part of your, I mean, if you're a construction company, productize what you do. If you're
Yes.
a trash hauler, productize what you do.
At 100%, and building those things, and to your point that you just you mentioned, they have you can take the same person or a similar person. It has to do with the desired outcome that they have. So
Yes.
whether it be, and I think sometimes we try to generalize too often. And you might have a similar process. I have some folks that have come to me, and there's 80% overlap between those two, but there are some critical differentiation. Name them two separate things, because the
Absolutely.
closer and easier you allow and enable someone to identify with what you are doing, you want them to raise their hand and say, "That's for me."
Yeah. We buy
Spot on.
products, we don't buy processes.
Yes,
It's,
exactly.
it's very simple. I mean, if I go and buy a car, I'm not buying the process of building a car. I'm
Yeah,
buying a car for a specific purpose and I want specific things inside that car.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
it's really pretty simple. But for some reason, we overcomplicate that.
We do. We do. And I think some of it has to do with structured thinking. Either we're afraid to put those packages together because what if they're not right? That I've heard that and seen that happen. So you kind of be generalist so that I can kind of dance the dance along the way and around the edges. Sometimes you have to call. The more concrete you can make something, as they always say, the confused mind doesn't buy. And so the more clear you can make it, the more you stack the deck in your favor.
Yeah, that's for sure. You got to make it simple. You got to make it easy to understand. I remember I was working with a group once, and all the stuff they did was overly complicated. My clients never understood it. So I
Hmm.
went to the guy who was running the program. I said, I, this stuff is really, it's great stuff, but no one ever understands it. His answer was, I thought was the most arrogant answer in the world. He said to me, our customers just have to trust us because we know what they're doing, even if they don't. And I said to myself,
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing what he said, by the way, it's worse than that, but I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly
Oh,
what he said. Um, I said to myself, this is really ridiculous. And I just didn't understand why somebody ever did it that way. But it was,
yeah.
and unfortunately, that happens too often in business.
Well, how I started the investment community. I ran a hedge fund for a long time, and we had this. And I might be paraphrasing, but effectively the idea of the market can stay wrong longer than you can stay liquid. And the idea is if you're so entrenched in your opinion, but the market and the other kind of the counterparty is telling you you're wrong, you should probably at least give some thought to that. And so often, we would encounter investments where the market was telling us we were wrong, and we can stay the course or we can learn the lesson. And so often, that's a hard lesson to learn sometimes.
It definitely is. So tell me about reverse engineering a leveraged life. What is a leveraged life first?
Yep. So for me, it's dollars per hour. So, and I'm in the the service business, service business area. I do coaching and consulting and investing, and especially for men under the age of say 35, there is this badge of honor of working yourself to the bone that had evolved over the last couple of years. And so for me, I'm a husband, father of three. As someone who values their time, I am looking to maximize the output for every dollar and every minute that I spend doing what I do. So the clients that I typically work with are ones who are looking for simplicity, and they're looking for ways to leverage their life so they are not working themselves to the bone. Somebody, one of my clients said yesterday, he's in the real estate space. He said they always say, I'm working to put food on the table. He said the problem is today so many people are actually not able to make it to that table, and that is a fundamental thing that I take very, very personally.
So, how do you go about helping someone do that?
Yeah. So actually, a great book, if this is of interest to you or resonates with you, is Dan Martell's "Buy Back Your Time." Dan Martell is a software and SaaS coach, one of the best in the world, and he wrote this book around how do you actually find what you're really good at, your zone of genius, and align that with where you're spending your time and what actually generates revenue or profits for your business. And fundamentally, very simply, we spend way too much time doing things we're either not competent to do or doesn't actually move the needle. And so the more you do, actually, the further behind you end up. And so understanding and having the awareness first and foremost about where you should stay, where your lane is, and then how do you fill in the other pieces in the business so that those people in those other roles are just as competent and energized as you are in yours.
I have two simple statements that are one. My first is fail fast, fail cheap, which
Yep.
is do small experiments and get rid of the stuff that doesn't work and keep the stuff that does. And frankly, it's about um, 80-20. 80% doesn't work, 20% does. And you have to learn to let the 80% go. If you do small experiments, you do that.
Mhm.
Second thing is that it's in my import, at least I just lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna,
Well, I think one of the fallacies here is when we go through this conversation, it sounds like, well, I just need to delegate more. The problem with
yes,
delegation, it's who has ownership over the outcome. Most people delegate, but still maintain control. So
that's not
that looks
that's not
like go
that's
do
not
this thing.
but that's not delegating.
100%. But that is practically what we see so often is I just hire a bunch of other people and tell them what to do or give them little bits and pieces. And that actually doesn't release you from the reasons why you're going through the exercise in the first place.
Well, that's why small businesses stay small. Is that
Wow.
small businesses they stay small because when someone delegates, they're not delegating. They actually have a bunch of helpers,
Yeah.
and they tell them what to do, and then they go back and check on it 5 minutes later or 10 minutes later to see
Mhm.
if it's done properly. And that's a real
Yeah.
challenge when it comes to how
Yeah.
people run their businesses.
Well,
So
and if we're looking for cash flow, that's a big component, right? I mean, we're investing dollars to get time back. So if you want to have a business that you enjoy that fulfills you and fills your buckets and all of those things, you have to do it a different way. And so where can you trade smaller dollars for bigger dollars or smaller dollars for time back? And the only way to do that is to properly delegate in the
yeah,
truest definition.
I just remembered what I was
Yeah.
talking about. What you want to do, at least in my opinion, is you want to magnify your strengths and manage your weaknesses. You mentioned before, too many people do things they're not very good at. And there's a
Mhm.
reason for that. When you start your business, you have to do everything because you're the only person there.
Yeah.
As you grow your business, it's really important to know what your unique ability is, again, using Dan Sullivan's term,
Mhm.
and what you're not good at, and find someone else to do it.
Mhm.
For example, I can't
Yeah.
fill out forms. I just can't do
Okay.
it. And I'm in the financial services world. It's one of my businesses. Guess what? I have an
Yeah.
assistant who's really good at it. And she puts all these little stickies in the right place for people to sign. So I
Yeah.
don't have to figure it out.
There you go.
Because every time I try to do it myself, you know what happens? It has to go
Well,
back and be redone because I did it wrong.
yep. Of course. Exactly. Well, you've got the self-awareness, and sometimes that is the first step in the process. Is
Yeah.
it's okay to not be great at everything. I have a mentor who said you can't be the best in the world at everything. So pick the
Actually,
pick the one or
actually,
two things.
the book I'm writing right now is a memoir, and the title is Confessions of a Mediocre Entrepreneur. So,
There you go.
so
I love it.
I will tell you that most things I do is mediocre. The stuff that I'm really good at, there are a few people in the world who are as good.
There you
And
go.
it's really important if you can just live in that world. A, you have a lot more fun. B,
Mhm.
you've reversed engineered your life. So you've got all the freedom you want. But you have to realize you need to how to recruit people who can do the stuff you're not good at or will cost you 25 bucks an hour to hire someone else to do it.
Right. Especially this day and age where there's lots of very talented people available, around the world. There's never been a better time to implement some of these things.
Or
And once, yeah.
if you're a solopreneur, if you're just all by yourself, there's no reason you don't build a team of two or three people who are really good at doing the
Mhm.
stuff you're not doing. And in today's world, you don't need to pay them 40 bucks an hour, 50 bucks an hour. It's,
Right.
12, 13, $14 an hour.
Yeah.
And these are people who are unbelievably good at what they do.
Mhm. Yep, exactly
So
right. Well, I think a lot of that is rooted in our old school, thinking where, going back to middle school, you have to have quote unquote straight A's. The reality is most of us in business are not straight A's across the board. And so finding those people that have those complementary skill sets is critical.
we spend a lot of time in the construction world.
Yeah.
Many of those owners have straight C's.
It's funny that you mentioned that because some of the most successful business owners are ones that are straight C's because they say, I'm not really good at anything, but I'm really good at delegating and getting the right people and they have complementary skill sets. And so you're spot on.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So let's have just a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by the power of intention?
So I think life either happens by design or by default. And so, especially in this chapter of my career, and I've been through raising hundreds of $1 millions in a hedge fund earlier in my career, to creating a multi seven figure fitness business, to we had an exit with a consulting business a couple of years ago. Designing exactly what I want for the future and what I want to be doing each day with intention was is the focus of this chapter of my life. And it's because I grew up with the wiring that there was a path that you are supposed to walk. Or life is either going to dictate to you what that looks like, or you set it for yourself. And I think I probably put it off far too long, but it is certainly a focus and something that I help other people hopefully see the value of.
Living your life with intention makes so much sense to me. Hey,
Yeah.
Tim, unfortunately, we are out of time. And
Oh.
I would love to have people talk with you or find you or well, I don't know what you want them to do, but whatever it is, go ahead and
Yeah.
tell
No, I'm on all the social channels, but if you're, well, it's either on Facebook or Instagram. DM me CCFC. I have a special gift for anyone who listened to the episode today as a small token of my appreciation. And my website is timcalise.com. That's TIMCALISE.com. And I greatly appreciate you having me, Josh. Thank you.
them. My pleasure. And I've got something I'd like you to do. I've asked you to do this now for 8.5 years. So that's how long this podcast has been going, by the way. Um,
Fantastic.
I would like you to go to wherever you're listening to the podcast, give us an honest rating review. If you love us, you can give us 5 stars. If you don't love us at all, give me 1 star and I'll cry and I'll be very unhappy and you'll laugh at me, but that's the way life is. So
Fair enough.
please, 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 please go to wherever you're listening to this and give us an honest rating and review. Hey, this is Josh Patrick. We're with Tim Calise. We're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.